Hello, hi, folks. Welcome. Happy Thursday, in hopes that you squeezed more out of your day than the day squeezed out of you. Welcome. Good to see you. I have a great story tonight, and I'm kind of surprised that I haven't shared this story before. I don't think I've ever. Let me think. I don't think I've ever shared this story before, and this is a true story. If you guys know, I love telling stories, hearing stories, and especially if they're true stories. So I'm surprised why I haven't told this story. T Money, thank you for staying up, and welcome. Good to see you, bro. You're gonna like this story. Nasser Khan, how are you? Welcome. What a pleasure to have you on. Thank you. So, the big rivalry between Ferrari Enzo and Lamborghini. Ferruccio Lamborghini. Enzo for Ferrari and Ferruccio Lamborghini. And for decades, right, this rivalry has been on. Even past their death, these two kind of car companies are always competing with each other. And at the same time, I feel like the car owners also compete with each other in a way, those who own Ferraris and those who own Lambos. I think they kind of compete with each other too. But this is a really cool little story. It's and there's three takeaways that we can take and apply it in our daily life in order to have that speed to achieving our goals. Thank you, Osa No Karatam. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So, Ferrari. Enzo, he dedicated his whole life to sports cars. I mean, that's kind of what he did, right? He established his manufacturing in 1939, but World War II kind of got in the way, right? So the first car that he landed was the 1947 125S. Now, he was more interested in doing sports cars, but he started to make street cars just to fund his passion to making sports cars, right? Now, the 125S became the first Ferrari to win a racing event at the Rome Grand Prix in 1947. Let me put a pause for a second. You make a car in 1947. It's a 1947 car. And in 1947, your first car wins its first racing event. I say that's pretty impressive, right? That's like, who's this guy, right? He just made a car and the car just won its first racing event. Like, what the heck just happened, right? Now, at the same time, Lamborghini, Ferruccio Lamborghini, had not even dreamed of building a car, okay? He was from a farming family, right? But he was always more interested in mechanics than agriculture, right? So after World War II, check this out, he noticed that there were a lot of military carts with parts for just people to take, right? So he took his background in agriculture, his passion in mechanics, all these little parts, and he made his first tractor. That's right. In 1948, he officially created an agricultural machine business called Lamborghini Trattori, right? His business was a hit. B Money, welcome, welcome. Good to see you, bro. His thing was a hit. For the first 15 years, that's all he did. He made tractors, right? So he did so well that he made a lot of money, right? And naturally, he bought a few cars. One of the cars he bought was the 1958 Ferrari. Are you feeling this right now? Are you seeing this story? So Lamborghini buys his first Ferrari, 1958, and that's the beginning of the rivalry. So here's how it goes down. Lamborghini really enjoyed driving this car, right? But because he had the background in mechanics, if you would, he felt that they could do a couple of different things a couple of different ways, right? One of them was the clutch. He had a really big problem with the clutch that needed to be changed a lot, like more often than it should have been, right? And the second thing that he thought that the car was too loud. You know, it was just too noisy, if you would, and kind of ran rough, you know. So what does he do? Like any other successful, powerful man at the, I guess, time, he decides to take this straight to Enzo himself. So he goes to Enzo and tells him, hey, listen, I love driving your car, but you know what? I think the clutch, you know, you could really work out the clutch because you got to change it too many times. The car is a little loud and runs a little, you know, rough. And after Lamborghini told this to Enzo, Enzo was so excited, gave him a big hug, invited him for a really nice meal, and they became best friends ever after. No, that's not what happened. Enzo was pissed. Enzo was like, who the heck is this guy? This guy doesn't even make cars. He doesn't even come from the car background. You got to think about this time. At this time, Enzo is at top of his game. Like, he's the man. He is the sports car guy. He's the luxury sports car guy. He's the number one guy, right? So he's thinking, who's this guy who's not even in car business who's telling me how to run my business, how to make cars? So he didn't like that too much. So he turns around and he tells Ferruccio, he says, you know, the problem actually is not the car. The problem is the driver, not the car. And you should just stick to making tractors and leave the car thing alone to me. Well, guess what? Ferruccio was insulted. He was really insulted. So he took Enzo's words as a personal challenge. And right there and right then, he made it his mission to make a car superior to Ferrari. Now, Ferrari has no idea what's going on, right? He's just going on like he's on top of the world. Well, Lambo gets started on his project, and he gets started on his a V12 engine, right? He was already a success. He was already a hit in the tractor world, right? And most people that knew him, they're like, dude, you should really not go against Enzo over here, you know? You really, you shouldn't. Well, he didn't really listen to them, did he? I mean, you got to think about this for a second. Ferrari is like the king of sports cars, okay, has won race after race after race, has demolished the sports car business in Italy, right? And this guy has made tractors, and he's coming in and wants to compete with Ferrari, like the number one car, not like the Fiat. You know what I mean? And they're like, dude, this guy has dedicated his life to this. This is what he does. You shouldn't go against them. He was years ahead of Lamborghini, right? Well, Lamborghini introduces his first car, the 350 GTV, at the motor show, just 4 months after this whole conversation he had with Enzo. Who are these two people? He gets into an argument with Ferrari. He says, you know what? That's it. He goes down the road. 4 months down the road, he produces his first Lambo, the 350 GTV, right? And that's released in October 1963. Okay. Now, next car, Maria Sports Coupe in 1966 is the one that made the name. That kind of solidified him as a, dude, this guy's a player, right? This guy, you shouldn't joke about this guy. This guy's a real player. And this is his second car. Imagine that. That's like so powerful, right? Now, once Lamborghini kind of proved that, you know, he could hang with Ferrari over here in terms of power, style, and luxury, well, you can imagine Ferrari didn't take that too well, right? And they started at it. The rivalry still continues, like after all these years, right? And they're both dead, right? Lamborghini said once, Enzo never spoke to him again. Enzo never spoke to me again. He was a great man, I have to admit, but it was so very easy to upset him. That's what Lambo said about Ferrari. Now, the last model that Enzo launched before his death was the Ferrari F40. Most people know that one. Sick car in 1988. And he actually passed away that same year, right? And Lamborghini, on the other hand, sold his company in 1973 during the whole world financial crisis and downturn. And then after going through bankruptcy and going through a few hands, okay, they ended up in the hands of Volkswagen, I think in 1988. And they've been kind of steady with them. And Lamborghini himself passed away in 1993 at the age of 76. All right. What a crazy little story, right? Somebody tells you something and then wha-bam. So you may have some takeaways yourself. You may have not heard the whole story, if you would, but I think this is such a cool story. And 3 takeaways, okay? And I'm okay. So I know this is gonna sound funny, but my best friend and I, right? We're actually he's the one who shared the story with me today over something else, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't done a live on this story ever, so why not do that, right? So we're talking, and he's all like, I know you're a Lambo guy, talking to me. He's more Ferrari guy, right? So I'm more of a Lambo guy. But it's kind of interesting, and we're best friends, and you know the rivalry. What I'm saying is, it's just so funny. I think, yeah, I'm definitely the Lambo, and the new Countach, the new like redone Countach. Man, oh man, oh man. If we get into cars, that's a whole different zone. But I'll give you this. I'll give you my first car. My first car that, if price is no object, is the McLaren F150, and that's funny. T money, B money. So yeah, so F150, the old one, sick. Anyway, the 3 takeaways from this story. This story is such a cool story, and I love this story. I just really love this story. The first one is, you should never underestimate your competition. You should never underestimate this little guy that you would think he would never. You would never you listen to me. Don't do that. Don't underestimate somebody. You never know. You never know. Those who have hurt you, stabbed you, and bit you are probably the ones you underestimated. Think about it. Think about it. Don't underestimate. One is, you should never underestimate your competition. Okay? 2, when people dismiss you or doubt you or count you out, man, to achieve your goals, you should use that as motivation. Motivation, as Mick would say in Rocky. Motivation. To push you even further, right? To push you even further. I think that's important. When somebody counts you out like that, like in your face insulting counts you out. You hear me? Those of you who laugh at your friends that want to share an opportunity with you and you ridicule them, that those of you who laugh and you count them out and you doubt them, those of you, no bueno. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because sometimes when you dismiss people like that, you count them out like that, something happens inside, you know? It has a reverse effect, and it does something to that person, and it makes that person explode, right? So don't do that. And well, maybe if you actually do that, sometimes it helps the other person. So I don't know. I guess you decide. And 3 is, that's fun. That's funny. Be money. And 3 is that be open to people's recommendations. Listen, even if they're not in your field, just at least be open to them. You don't have to put them down or insult them, right? Had Ferrari been nicer, maybe they could have worked together. But then again, we wouldn't have 2 sets of cars. You feel me though? Be open to people's recommendations, suggestions. You don't have to do them. You don't have to take them and just say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to implement it right away. But you don't have to be jerk about them either. Right? You can say, well, I don't know. Well, maybe we'll take, I don't know. You could be nicer, definitely nicer than our good old boy Enzo here. Right? So, listen to me. Shouldn't underestimate your competition. If people count you out, doubt you, put you down, ridicule you, use that. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm using all that as fuel right now. I'm on fire right now. Right? Use that as fuel. As I always say, I've said this before, all the crap, all the dead wood, all the crap in the past, all the stuff people are saying, all the dirt, all that stuff, all the dead wood, it's only good for fire. Burn it. Use it as energy, right? Motivation. Brad, you're hilarious, dude. And please be open to people's recommendations and suggestions. I thought this story is so cool. I can't believe I haven't told this story before. So I hope you enjoyed it, got some value from it. Yeah. And hey, if you have your own takeaway, drop it down in the comments below. Let this feed grow. Or maybe one of the 3 that I shared with you really speaks out to you. So maybe you can drop that in the comments below. And well, thanks, B-Money. If you stuck around to the end, then I'm pretty sure it was a good story. That's funny. I appreciate you guys. And remember, until tomorrow, when we do it all over again. Much love.